Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and I wanted to go back and look at the Star Wars writing group's whiteboard or whatever. And you remember, I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but this kind of got leaked or whatever. Somebody put it out a few years ago. I just stumbled upon it the other day, and I was looking at it, and I kind of thought it was kind of funny because I haven't really looked at it, and I just wanted to just talk about it really briefly here as to like what their mentality was when they were writing some of this stuff. Okay, so they've got sort of your general fiction, your what's already established in Star Wars, and then what they want. General fiction, I mean, there's nothing in there really all that spectacular. I think it's funny, though, that they have humor at the bottom there, but they're not really adding a lot of humor to anything. There's not a lot of funny stuff. Actually, what's interesting about that is the funniest scenes they ever wrote are in The Rise of Skywalker, which is kind of sad. You know, there's at least some funny banter with Poe and 3PO, and then, of course, they had the Finn, Rey, Poe sort of argumentative thing going on at the beginning of the film. But really, other than that, I mean, you think about, for example, The Acolyte, the latest one. I mean, there's nothing funny in The Acolyte at all. I mean, they tried to be funny by having Yord have his shirt off, and then she's like, "Put your clothes on, Yord." It's not really very funny at all, actually, that show. But anyways, relatable characters, yeah. Sweeping epic, sure. Feelings. Okay, that could be taken many different ways. Actual ending. I think that should go without saying. Actual ending? Wouldn't that be just like, did you guys need to put that down on paper that there's going to be an actual ending? Diversity. What is that? Diversity of what? Diversity of what? Opinion? What? I think we know probably what they think they mean. But no, you don't necessarily have to have diversity of anything in fiction. It just depends what you're writing. Surprise. Yeah. Twists are good. In fact, I just watched Unbreakable last night, which I'd already seen, but it has such a good twist, right? And then Authentically Lived In. Okay, then you go to Star Wars, it's like not pro-war. I guess, but the Empire's pro-war. I mean, I don't know. They'll do what they have to do. And actually, the Rebels were definitely pro-war because they felt like that was the only way they could get out of the tyranny they were under. So that one's weird. Droids, yeah, okay. Scope. I guess they're saying, like, the size of the universe, or the galaxy, or whatever. Okay, fine. Mythic. Yeah, sure. Space and lightsaber. Yeah. No single main character. I would tend to agree with that. I've said many times that the main problem with the sequels is that Rey kind of embodies all of the characters in Star Wars. So like, you had Han Solo, the pilot, slash smuggler, swashbuckler, whatever. You had Chewie, also a pilot, but a mechanic and a good fighter. You had Leia, who was also, a Spitfire and would a voice of reason a lot of times, and sometimes had to put her foot down, but also very important in terms of helping with many, many different things on the adventure. You have Luke, who's sort of the hero. All that to say that they all contributed to what the goal was. Whereas in the sequels, Rey was all of those things. She was the pilot, she was the Force user, she was the mechanic, she was the, all the rest of the people were just kind of there. And she did everything, which made it lame, which is funny to me because they're saying this is what Star Wars is, and then they did the opposite in the sequels. The Force, yeah, okay, complicated monsters. I'm trying to think. I mean, I didn't find any of them all that complicated. I mean, the Rancor is just this giant beast. He's pretty simple, just like grabs dudes and eats them. The beasts in the prequels were also, based on real life animals. There wasn't really anything super complicated. They were altered. So yeah, again, some of this stuff is, it's making me think they were kind of out of it. Like some of this stuff is just kind of like, what? Like, what? Where are you getting this from? But then we get to the Star Wars wishes, and this is where it gets sad. And this is where now that I'm looking at it now, after we've seen all these shows come out and all this stuff, you're like, oh, darn. This is the root cause. So Star Wars wishes High Republic. They really wanted that to fly, that High Republic era. And the combination of the book sales plummeting, the Acolyte failing and not being renewed, I don't think that is going to work. You know, it had potential. It had potential, but every article I saw, it was always like, you know, they were always promoting how diverse it was. And it's like, I've said this so many times, like, if you want your, quote, diversity, just do it. Don't talk about it so much. Talking about it constantly instead of talking about Star Wars and the stories is what I think rubs people the wrong way. It rubs me the wrong way. You know, like, I don't care about that. I honestly don't. Just don't talk about it. Just do it. Stop making such a big deal about it. But the High Republic is kind of a failure. In the High Republic, they kind of ruin Yoda, too. They make him, like, this sort of, like, bossy guy that doesn't let certain Jedi research or try to get into certain Force things. He kind of, like, organizes them into different abilities and all this stuff. It just doesn't feel like Star Wars. They focus on things that they shouldn't. I have heard there is some good things, but I don't know. I just don't care about that, man. I don't care. Here's the thing. The big problem with the High Republic is this. We were told in The Phantom Menace that there was 1,000 years of peace and no Sith. So why would we want to see the High Republic? That represented an era where basically nothing was going on, right? The Jedi were doing the odd thing, like dealing with the odd little issue, but it was a time of peace. There was really nothing going on. And then you're just kind of forcing stuff going on. And there really shouldn't have been much going on, right? So that's where it's like, why even do that era? Why even bother with it? But they did, and they made things happening, you know, and then with the Acolyte, now there's Sith now, and now the Jedi are covering it up. And so the High Republic was always doomed to changing the lore of George Lucas's stories, because, again, you're writing conflict resolution stories with enemies and this and that in a time when there really shouldn't have been much of that going on. It should have been a time of boredom, right? Peace and boredom as far as stories go. So that was doomed to create problems, and now with the Acolyte, it's created massive problems, and it's really impacted a lot of people. People are upset because they've altered The Phantom Menace and altered George's prequels, which, by the way, I told you guys they were going to do way before the show came out. As soon as I saw the era they were doing it in, I was like, boom, they're going to wreck The Phantom Menace, and they're going to wreck Yoda. And they did both. So Yoda's a big fat liar now and covering up stuff. So Relic Hunters, I mean, that's okay, but they kind of overdid it. Like, right away with the sequels, Kylo Ren's got Vader's helmet. Like, what did he do? So Vader's suit was still there. Like, his, like, charred body was all, like, stuck to the inside of the suit. Like, what? And then he comes down and gets his helmet. And then the very fact that Luke's lightsaber was back, but instead of giving us a reason, it's a story for another time. And then he had the stupid dagger. They just did a lot of, like, corny, cheesy stuff with objects. And they made objects this big thing. And that isn't really Star Wars, you know? Like, you never really had that. Let's keep the relic hunting to the Indiana Joneses of the world, to the Tomb Raiders of the world, to other IPs, because, again, you go back to the 6 George Lucas movies, they're not relic hunting. You know, again, we can see that all over the place. We don't need it in Star Wars. University, I don't even know what that means. You want to have a Star Wars university? I honestly, I just don't know what that means. Dinosaurs, yeah, dinosaurs, and we see that in Mando, right? All these dinosaurs, the stupid, what are they called? The group that Mando was in. I don't remember. You guys let me know in the comment section. But anyways, they're on this. They decide to settle on a planet full of, like, huge and dangerous dinosaurs, and they weren't even like Star Wars dinosaurs. Like, there's literally just a pterodactyl. The only thing they changed was the face is a little more like alligator-y than an actual pterodactyl. But, like, literally, like, and then you have that gigantic alligator. Why would you do that? Like, why would that be on your list of things to do in Star Wars? My wish list is to have dinosaurs in Star Wars. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't your wish be to have, like, crazy monsters? Like, for under Star Wars, they have complicated monsters. Okay, fine, whatever. It's kind of a weird way of putting it, but at least at least George had the wherewithal to be like, okay, this kind of looks like a praying mantis, but I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and this. They just literally had like normal dinosaurs and then just made them either really, really big or just left them the same basically, except changed their face slightly. So, again, it's funny going back and looking at this list and seeing what their thought process was now that we have all this stuff that's come out. Representation and diversity. This is such a weird thing to prioritize. Just pick actors that can do the roles and do well. Like, I don't understand. And I brought this up before. You go back to like those videos, the video footage from like after Return of the Jedi, and they were interviewing people on the streets, and it's like, you want to see diversity? Watch those. It's nothing but all different types of people from all walks of life, and nobody felt like they weren't represented because of skin color or gender or whatever. Like, you can see yourself in a character that's a different race than you. Again, we're making things so shallow that it's all about your skin tone instead of the depth of the character and what they're doing. Again, if you want to put in different colored folks, nobody cares, but you better put in people that are qualified and are going to do a good job first and worry about the skin tones later. But they seem to worry about the skin tones as the biggest priority for some reason. And again, I've seen myself in all different types of characters. This also means, like, how would you ever see yourself in an alien character? Like, if there was a show that was based on an alien, so you just wouldn't be able to see yourself, you wouldn't relate to that character at all, just simply because they don't look like a human being, they look like an alien. You see what I'm saying? They're teaching young people to base everything off of immutable traits. And to just be shallow losers that can't see anything beyond the depth of a skin tone. Arthurian legends. I mean, yeah, if you can do it, they failed at that. No one cares about any of the characters they've made at this point. Other than maybe Mando. That's it. No one cares about anyone else. So, yeah, I mean, you tried. Rival houses. This goes back to something I actually did a video about this, whatever, like a month or so ago. That they with Andor in particular, they really went this route of trying to be like Game of Thrones in terms of the way the show paces and the way it moves along and the long drawn out monologues and dramatic dialogue scenes. They're trying to be a lot like Game of Thrones. Which, again, is a mistake. Game of Thrones is Game of Thrones. Star Wars is Star Wars, right? So, that's not to say Andor doesn't have some really cool stuff in it. It surely does. But it doesn't have that Star Wars feel. It more has like a Game of Thrones feel. And the whole rival houses thing, is that what they attempted to do with the Skywalker Palpatine thing? Is that, like, because they did a terrible job of that. They did an absolutely terrible job of that. And the whole rival houses thing is, again, that's a Game of Thrones thing. Why do you want that in Star Wars? Like, what are you doing? Like Luke wasn't the enemy of Palpatine because of their last names, because they were rival houses. Palpatine wanted Luke because Luke was powerful in the Force, and he wanted to use him. Not because he had the Skywalker last name. And then you see in The Last Jedi where Luke's like, oh, and the mighty Skywalker bloodline, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're not Game of Thrones. Stop trying to be Game of Thrones. It's a mistake. And we've seen it is a mistake. Sith Empire, okay. You know, we got that in the originals. I guess that's one of the things they put in the sequels, right? Was the Exegol and the Sith Eternal and the totally unexplained Star Destroyers and all that crap that they just did without reasonable explanations. And then bringing back Palpatine. Anyway, Sith Empire, cool. The way you did it, not cool. Chaos Agents. Is this Balin and Shin? Is that Balin and Shin? I don't know. It's Splinter Group Force users. Is that Balin and Shin? I would say, yeah. And I'm not really a big fan of that. I think that kind of has led us to this sort of Sith but not Sith thing that I've been talking about, where it started with Kylo Ren, it's Balin and Shin and all these other characters, where the story group tries to say that they're being super creative by saying these are not Sith, they're different. Meanwhile, they're literally exactly the same. They do everything Sith do. They seek the same things Sith do, power and all that stuff. Their mentality is totally Sith, but they're not Sith, and then look at how creative we are. We said they're not Sith. And I think this is the origin of that whole thing. It started with Kylo, whose master was trained by Palpatine, who's a Sith, but then Snoke wasn't a Sith, and then he trained Kylo in all the same stuff, but Kylo's not a Sith. That was... I don't understand why they did that. Why didn't you just make Kylo a Sith? Like, Kylo Ren is such a corny name anyway. Kylo. I'm Kylo. Why didn't you just give him a Darth something? Like, wouldn't that have been better than Kylo? Kylo with his pouty face. Kylo the simp. Like, so all that to say, you can see when you read this list why they did what they did and the mentality behind it and the flawed mentality behind a lot of it. Especially the Star Wars wishes. This is a pretty corny, lame list of stuff. It really is. And it didn't work. And we have proof of that. It did not work. It has been a failure. And it's continuing to plummet and circle the bowl. So yeah, I just wanted to do a video on that, guys. I just thought it was really interesting, sort of reliving this list, a while later and looking at the dumb stuff that they did. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to comment. I'd love to hear from you. And feel free to check out everything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.